It Lives Inside is the newest horror film to hit theaters, presented by Neon. I didn't know anything about this film, I didn't watch a trailer, and I only saw the poster and knew it was a horror film. So what did I think about this film? Well, let's talk about it. An Indian-American teenager struggling with her cultural identity has a falling out with her former best friend, and in the process releases a demonic entity that grows stronger by feeding on her loneliness. The film stars Suri, Neeru Bajwa, Mohana Krishnan, Gabriel, Vik Sahay, and Gage Marsh, and was directed by Bishal, Dutta, and this is his first film. It Lives Inside, I never saw any advertisement for this film whatsoever. If it wasn't for the fact that I saw the poster at my theater, I don't know if I would know that this film exists. I have seen some of my YouTube peers actually post their reviews, and I will check those out because I am interested to hear what people actually think about this film. Positives that I can say about this film is I do like the Indian culture here. That whole aspect of the film is really cool to actually incorporate into a horror film. We don't really get a lot of films that are released into theaters with that cultural aspect. And I really did appreciate that we actually have that representation. We have Sam, who is trying to live the American way, and her family, especially her mother, really doesn't want her to go that route. She wants her to respect the Hindi kind of ways, and she wants her to talk in that language. There is some of that language spoken with subtitles in this film, but it's mainly spoken in English. She goes to this high school, and her former best friend is very just out of it. She's very just scared. She walks around like something is going to get her at any point, and she's carrying around this jar, and she apparently is feeding this jar meat. When she tries to reconnect with Sam, there is a problem because Sam is really reluctant to really rekindle that relationship. And when she knocks the jar out of her hand, this spirit or demon entity actually gets released. And that's where we have our movie. I do like the sound of this film. I think there is some horrific kind of sounds in here. And I appreciated that they didn't use like scratchy kind of sounds like they would use in a lot of elevated horror kind of films and artsy kind of films. I'm glad they avoided that here. I think the makeup is done pretty well. Scenes with Tamara, Sam's former friend, where she just looks really tired. Her eyes are really black. She just looks like she's really just kind of like drugged out as the best word to really describe it. And you actually see that with Sam's character too, as the entity is getting closer to her. You see her really just get really tired, and I think they use that makeup very well. Our main character, Sam, I think they had a pretty good story for her with her heritage portion, her friend falling out, and just her carrying the movie. I think that she did a pretty good job. I haven't seen her in any other movies, but I think overall I was very engaged with her character and what she was going to do next. Now we get into the negatives, and I have to say that this film, it borrows from a lot of different horror movies. For instance, Evil Dead. There's this book that Sam actually finds, and it has all this writing, has these rituals. It talks about the demon and how it actually relates to Indian culture. And there is another portion in the film where you have this monster that has yellow eyes, and he's in the dark, and when you turn the light on, he goes away. So I instantly thought of Lights Out. Then we also have parts where we have invisible feet walking, and you can kind of see the feet marks going, reminding me of the Invisible Man. And then there's some other portions in this film where the actual demon tries to kill people, and he leaves these hole prints, and it reminded me of a film that I saw years ago called The Darkness, which was a horrible film, by the way. It takes a little bit for this film to actually progress before we get to anything scary, and when we do get a little bit of jump scares, dream sequences, and things that you've seen in horror films done many of times. And because it has that PG-13 rating, there's only so much they can do, and I feel like they just don't do enough to really engage the audience from the middle of this movie towards the end of this movie, because we get to a point in this film where we actually have someone that actually gets killed off about in the middle of the film, and it gets kind of interesting at that point, but it just kind of foils over a little bit. I feel like it just doesn't keep that momentum up. it kind of just slows down a little bit, get a little bit more backstory, a little bit of cultural kind of thing, which again, I can really actually appreciate the cultural representation here. I'm definitely game for that, but you got to have a little bit more horror moments in here. I am going to lean in a few minor spoilers, so if you don't want to know these minor spoilers, go ahead and turn this off or skip ahead about 30-40 seconds or so. My biggest flaw with this movie is the fact that there is only one kill in the entire movie. One kill. And it wasn't even that great. It's a PG-13 movie. It's not a very bloody movie. The fact that we waste 99 minutes watching this film and there's one kill the entire time. I'm sorry. You have to have more kills. You just have to. It was a throwaway character, so I understand that part, but I was very disappointed with that. And the other thing I noticed too with horror films is this happened in Boogeyman as well that I saw earlier this year. They don't try to show the creature until the end. And then when they wait in that last 15-20 minutes to show the creature, I understand why. The way that this creature is actually designed, he doesn't look like a demon at all to me. He has these little spikes on his back that look like a mini Godzilla. Then he looks like he is some predator creature or an alien of some sort. He just doesn't look that scary to me. And I was really disappointed of the reveal of him. There were a lot of predictable moments in this film. There are portions in this film where something horror is going on. I'm like, oh, that's not real. It's a dream sequence. Then there's another part where a character is kind of scared and they think something's going to come through the door. And I'm like, that's not the creature. It's another character. Just little things like that I was actually predicting throughout the film. I felt like with it borrowing a lot of different things from horror films, I think it actually hurt the film. And like I said, not having a kill count where you just were really scared for this entity. I felt like it just seemed like an invisible entity where there were portions in the film where you see like the yellow eyes and the darkness and you're thinking, okay, when this creature is actually going to get revealed. I just felt like it just wasn't enough to really be a really good horror film, and it felt a little generic for a PG-13 film, unfortunately, and I hate saying that because it is a very well-made movie. It's shot well. There's some pretty good sequences on where they shot certain scenes. I like the actual house they use. It's like a broken-down house. It looks like absolute crap, and no one's living there, and I do like that setting as well, which is very cool. But just having those aesthetics, having some pretty decent acting, and not really having the best of story, that's what really hurt this film. I wouldn't say that I was ever really bored with this film, but I was really looking for a little bit more, and I was a little bit disappointed by the time the film actually ended. Overall, I'm going to give It Lives Inside a score of 2.5 out of 5. An okay film and not bad for a debut, but definitely needed some more fresh ideas to make it really stand apart in the horror genre. Of course, it has that cultural representation that is really going for it, which is something different, but you gotta have a little bit more fresh ideas in the story department. Let me know down in the comments, did you like It Lives Inside? Did you hate it? Or did you just think it was kind of meh? And if you haven't seen it yet, are you gonna check it out in the theater? Or are you gonna wait till streaming? Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on my next review.